Hello everyone, this is my first video since my vacation. So just to recap, I took a bit of a break from making videos first to prepare for my trip back to America, first to go to the International Conference on Men's Issues 2019 in Chicago. And then after that, I hopped back over to my home in Minnesota and spent about a week and a half there. So that was a couple of weeks altogether, plus some time to prepare for the trip. And then as soon as I got back, I got really sick. So as I was trying to kind of get back into the flow of working and everything and, being back here, I was also kind of not feeling too hot. But now I'm all better, and boy, that ended up being a much longer hiatus than I expected it to be. So at some point, I'll do a video with Prince of Queens, and probably with another member of my Discord who I was fortunate enough to actually meet in person, and we can talk about our different experiences we had at the conference. But just in short, it was a really fantastic time. I got to meet a lot of very interesting people, including Sarkhan, Dankula, Desiree, or I think Just Thinking Out Loud, the Honey Badgers, of course, especially Brian. Brian is someone I saw running around quite a bit. He was very, very busy, but it was very fun to talk to him. I saw Aiden Paladin. I didn't really speak to her very long, but that's okay. One thing that I learned is, early on when I was there, I kind of felt like this pressure to make sure I say something to people. And it felt kind of good to let go of that, to just kind of be content with knowing they exist and not finding an excuse to speak to people unless I really have something that I want to ask them in particular. And I had a nice conversation with Diana Davison. I kind of fangirled a little bit in front of her, so that was a little bit cringy, but nonetheless, an experience I would not trade for anything in the world. Anyway, but I'm not going to go too much into all the experiences at ICMI because, like I said, that's something that I think deserves its own, dedicated stream. So, with all that out of the way, after briefly explaining where I've been, I wanted to make a quick video about an amusing piece of news that's been making the rounds, which is Ms. Monopoly. That's right, they are rebooting Monopoly with a feminist twist, and it's as awful as you think it would be. And by awful, I actually, in a way, I mean perfect, because this really does symbolize the entire treatment of the gendered conversation. If you have a game, right? In a game, you have a fixed set of rules. Everybody enters in the game with the same things. And, maybe the only true luck factor, at least in terms of the very beginning of the game, that kind of sets things off kilter, is the turn order. Generally speaking, whoever goes first in a game is typically at an advantage, and that's why some games will add some sort of a balancing factor to offset this, right? But Monopoly doesn't really have anything like this. Although, since it deals with money, conceivably they could just give a little bit of money to each player in proportion to how long they have to wait. I think that would actually be a pretty good house rule. Granted you balance it correctly. But anyway, so you have this thing where people enter into this game and they're all on an even playing field, and there's really nothing particularly gendered about Monopoly. It's not a skill-based game. It's not a strength-based game. It doesn't really involve anything like that. It's a turn-based game where I guess, you negotiate with other players. Perhaps there's an argument to be made there that there's some sexist element. But, I would argue that if anything, it would benefit girls. But I suppose it would also depend upon your play group. I think that's probably the biggest factor, is who are the actual individuals that you're playing with, and do you have a reputation, right? I have a reputation for generally winning at Monopoly, and therefore whenever I play with my friends, they're extremely skeptical of anything I do, and they always cockblock any trade I try to make because they know that I'm going to do something really, really shisty. And basically, what I've found is the best way to win at Monopoly is you just buy all of the properties that you land on immediately and don't worry about how much money you have. Just immediately buy all the things as quickly as you can, and then you try to secure any Monopoly you can as quickly as possible, and then immediately make them into hotels. Right? That's the game. Is whoever gets the first Monopoly tends to win. Once you have those first couple of players landing on your exorbitant properties, usually from there you can kind of coast through to the end of the game. And you really only need one Monopoly, especially if it's earliest in the game, in order to win. Don't need to bother with utilities. Don't need to bother with the railroads. You do buy them. You buy them and then you trick other players into trading them away so that you can get a Monopoly. But that's basically my strategy behind Monopoly, which I think is a very solid strategy. Anyway, so in this version of Monopoly, they give women more money. So if you're a girl and you play this game, you're supposed to just have more money, which is stupid, but that's the part of it that I actually like, because it's a perfect symbol for what has happened. Is you take something that's generally gender neutral, there's not really a problem, and in order to celebrate women's empowerment, they create a version of the game where women are just given free shit for no reason. You know? And, yeah, well, what a great way to symbolize the way that feminists have treated gender equality. Is they find problems where there are none and use it as an excuse to just give women free shit for no reason. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. There's something very poetic about that. But the other part of it that's very funny that I wanted to comment on is they replaced everything. They kind of gave it a facelift to make it kind of more modern. Instead of railroads, you got ride shares. And then they replaced the utilities with Wi-Fi and solar heating. And then they replaced a bunch of the squares and things with like things supposedly invented by women. And I didn't really take a snapshot of like the actual board, but it'd be really funny to go through this and see how many of them actually are female inventions. So one thing they did claim was Wi-Fi. They said Wi-Fi is invented by women. And I thought, that's interesting. I wonder if that's a bunch of bullshit or not. So I actually looked it up. I did a little bit of digging, and I found this website. It's thoughtco.com. Their article, Who Invented Wi-Fi. I don't know anything about this website. I'll link it. You can take a look at it yourself. It's written by a woman, updated earlier this year, so it's fairly recent. I don't really have any reason to doubt it, I guess. It seems like a strange political thing to like lie about who invented Wi-Fi. To me, that seems like a fairly like neutral question. So I'm kind of just taking this, at face value. I don't really have a reason to doubt it. So anyway, I read through this little article here. It's very short. And basically they mentioned that, it's a complicated question because there's a lot of different groups that have made the technology that makes Wi-Fi possible, but there's basically two things that were important for the invention of Wi-Fi. And the first thing was a series of like standard, the 802.11 standards for radio frequency. So apparently that was a really big deal. And the person who made those standards was Vic Hayes, who is a man. He's called the father of Wi-Fi. So the short answer to who invented Wi-Fi, the answer is a man. But I wanted to be charitable. I wanted to figure out where the hell did they get this claim that like a woman invented Wi-Fi. So I went to dig a little bit further, and some of these different teams had to create a way for the signal to not have a lot of echo to interfere. And they needed to create like a certain chip that would process things so quickly or whatever. And the one that ended up prevailing was one by CSIRO, Cicero, I don't know how they pronounce that, Cicero's. They had a team that built a fast chip that could transmit a signal while reducing the echo, which beat many of the major communications companies around the world that were trying to solve the same issue. And the team that is credited with inventing this include Dr. John O'Sullivan, a man, Dr. Terry Percival, that is Terry with a Y, short for Terrence, in other words, a man, Dr. Diet Austri, Diet, I guess it's like a German name, Diet something, and that is a man, I looked it up, Mr. Graham Daniels, a Mr., and Mr. John Dean. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's 5 men. So 5 men on that team that made the chip, and then another man who is separately credited as the father of Wi-Fi. So no woman is mentioned in this entire freaking article at all. So that's a lie. So there we go. I plucked out the very first one I saw. Like, huh, did a woman invent Wi-Fi? No, turns out it's a lie. So I wonder, it's going to be amusing to see this whole game and to see like if anybody wants to go through and see like how much of these like claimed women's inventions are actually bullshit. Teal Deer had made a video about it was like I forgot who made the video, but they were claiming all these things were invented by black people, and he just like went through them one by one and proved that like essentially none of them were. So always be skeptical if they say something is invented by someone other than a white man. There's a good chance that they're just lying for a political reason. But I thought that was pretty amusing. That yeah, I have no clue how they got that claim at all. But anyway, that was just an amusing little aside. Ms. Monopoly looks dumb because the gender rights conversation is dumb. So what a perfect symbol and a perfect continuation and an encapsulation of all that has come before. So those are my thoughts on it. I'll put a couple of links in the description. And yeah, I have a couple of other videos. This was just kind of a short little thing. I wanted to just to break the silence, because I've been looking at my channel and looking at the most recent video and seeing it go on like 4 weeks without a new video, and it makes me kind of sad. So I wanted to make sure I broke the silence of it. So, quick channel update. I'll be making some sort of a stream with someone sometime, or possibly even multiple streams, talking about, you know, ICMI 2019. I'm going to make a video about a couple of things I had watched while I was sick. One of them was Melanie Martinez's new video, which is like a horror video / collection of music videos. Which was very interesting. Very interesting. Generally really bad. But I was not bored. I was not bored watching it. But it's called K through 12. She actually made it available for free, so you can check that out if you're curious. But I have a lot of thoughts regarding it, as well as some thoughts that are related to another series on Netflix I watched called Remind. And the theme is, what do preteen girls think? I really feel like I understand the mental landscape of the 14 to 15-year-old like preteen girl after watching this, and it's, you know, it's dismal to say the least. So that's one video I'm going to work on. Another one is a proper video explicating why I believe ethics and morality are separate concepts, and what that really means, and like where I'm actually drawing that line. It's a topic that I haven't really given much serious treatment to, because I almost feel like just stating it already kind of explains it, and the more you think about it, the more sense it makes. But it is something that deserves its own video, and there is actually a lot of interesting things to parse out with it, and it's an interesting journey, I think, to really examine that idea, because I do feel it's very, very important. And then the third thing, what was the third thing? There was another one. Oh no, this was the third thing. This video was the third thing. Alright, so that's all I got for now. Anyway, thank you guys for listening, and have a nice day.